Okay, I want to rant and rave for just 1 second before I explain something you can add to your training to get a little bit better results, maybe even a whole lot better results depending on what you're currently doing, and increase your vertical jump. First of all, I've had about maybe 10 different requests from people who are trying a certain training program. I'm not going to mention the name of it. You guys who emailed me know the name of it, and you're wondering why you're not getting results or why you even lost some results. And please go to the website, look at the first video on the website, and it's going to explain why you may be training your endurance and not your jumping explosion. There's a lot of programs out there doing that, but there's one in particular that is really bad with it. I mean, repetitions up to like 1,200 in some cases, where you're doing 1,200 times one exercise, and that's training your jumping endurance. And so just beware of that. I know I've said it 100 times, but I still get a lot of the same type of questions. Okay, first I want to explain a couple of little principles that might help you understand why this principle of training is going to work out. First of all, your muscles work on a principle called the all or nothing principle. The all or nothing principle. It's not something I made up. It's something that I learned during my personal training education. You can look it up on Google, all or nothing principle. Basically how it works is, depending on how much weight you're lifting, is going to depend on how your body recruits muscle. So let's say, for instance, this is not true. Let's say you have 20 muscle fibers. And if you're only lifting very light weight, your body's only going to recruit maybe half of those muscle fibers. And it uses muscle fibers, either the whole muscle fiber or not at all. So it doesn't use like one muscle fiber a little bit, or all the muscle fibers just a little bit. It recruits a certain number of muscle fibers, and then it either uses all of them, the entire fiber, or not. So basically, if you're training with lighter weight, you may not have even been training certain muscle fibers at all, because you're only training a certain portion of the muscle fibers. So that's why in your training you want to emphasize doing heavier lifts, because you're going to be training every single one of your muscle fibers as your body recruits everything it has to lift that weight. Okay, with that in mind, what I recommend you do, and please don't be afraid to alter your current jump training program. You may be on the strength training, you may be on the vertical jump project. There's tons of good programs out there, but don't be afraid to alter it if this makes sense to you. If it doesn't make sense to you, keep doing what you're doing. But I recommend you do your heavy lifting with 5 sets. The first 3 sets should be very heavy weight. Keep your reps below 10 and do them very explosively. If you do it explosively, that's what you're trying to train, your explosion. So you're going to be following the pattern of doing explosion to gain more explosion. And so the first 3 sets, reps below 10, and then high explosion. So if you're doing squats, you're doing it like you're exploding. If you don't approach each exercise like this, you're going to do it with more intensity than you've ever done, then you may be lacking results, because you're not pushing yourself to a higher explosion. You're just pushing yourself at a lower level explosion. So you got to get fired up during the training. If you got to play some music in your head or whatever you got to do, you need to be exploding. Now the last 2 sets are going to be different for a couple reasons. One of the reasons is when you do explode, that initial hit is going to make that weight coast for a bit, so it's not going to be straining your muscle, which is not a good thing. So your last 2 sets, we're going to be doing a complete muscle strain. So on these last 2 sets, keep your weight below 10 still, or your reps below 10. So keep your weight heavy, but do the weight very slowly. So you might have to do a little less weight. So if you're doing squats, go to the peak point, lower very slowly so that you can feel a strain on the muscle the entire time. If you feel a strain the entire time, you're getting every area of the muscle trained. Now your last set is something a little bit different that you want to do. This is going to be what we call the burnout set. When you train your muscle to go a little bit past total failure or fatigue, then you're able to train the muscle to its maximum potential. So here's what you're going to do on your last set. You're still going to keep your reps below 10. And what you want to do is, it's best to have a partner. If you're doing squats, no matter what you're doing, it's the same thing. Go tell failure, tell you can't do any more. And then the moment you can't do any more, rack the weights take off 20 to 40 pounds or 10 pounds or however much so that you can go back and do just as many again. Now once you've pulled off those weights, immediately get under there and do under 10, but go until failure, until you can no longer lift anymore. Once you've gotten to that point, repeat that process one more time. Take the weights off quickly and then go to failure again until you just can't go anymore. If you have a partner, have him help you do 2 to 3 more so that your muscles are just completely exhausted. So basically, if you change your workouts to doing 5 sets, the first 3 explosive. Now you got to get fired up and you got to explode like you've never exploded before. Do make sure you're warmed up so you don't have any muscle injury and that you're well stretched. But those first 3, explosion. The fourth one, slowly but thoroughly straining the muscle. The last one, slowly but surely straining the muscle, and then taking off, and then going to failure again, and then one more time going to failure, and having someone help you do 2 to 4 more repetitions. So that's the way to completely train your muscle to get stronger and focus on the explosion that's going to help you jump higher. If you like any of these tips, please go to the website. We have a newsletter that's going to send out just helpful tips that are just going to help you fill out your knowledge in your vertical jump training program. It all depends on you. If you go out there and you find a program and you're excited about the program simply because there's testimonials on the page or because it promises you 10 to 30 inches of vertical jump power added to your vertical, you may be disappointed because basically you're just buying into someone's marketing. But if you go out there, you do your research, you go to my site, you go to other sites, which I can recommend a lot of different sites that have good information on them, you'll be able to develop your own vertical jump training program. You'll be able to know for yourself whether it's going to be an effective program or not, and not just have to guess or buy into someone's marketing. So I hope these tips are helping out. If you do have questions, email me. I'll try and address it in one of the videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.